Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show here inside On TV Studios. And you may be viewing or listening to the Game Sports Show via our website as well, thegamesportshow.com. Very happy to be able to join us here tonight for another edition of the Game Sports Show. And it is November the 19th, so that means day 19th of something, Alex.
What's that?
What do you think it is?
Look, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. You just had a close-up of that caterpillar crawling across his face there, which...
Face lettuce is what I've been told.
Yeah, we'll work on that term, but I'll give it to him. It's not a bad stash. Not a bad stash by any means.
Hopefully everyone out there is being a part of Movember. But either way, if you're not, it's for a good cause either way. But I'm enjoying it. I think it's a fun little touch.
Yeah.
Here on the Game Sports Show tonight, we have an action-packed show, as I mentioned at the top. As always, we're going to be jumping into part one about how we're going to have a giveaway contest I'm going to get to. We're going to talk about a little bit about Don Cherry and Ron MacLean. I know that's been discussed a lot in the world, so we're going to just talk about it briefly, with also talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first part as well. Part two will be about the local hockey perspective, the OHL and the NCAA. Part three will be more local hockey with the Sioux College Cougars, Algoma U, the NOJHL. Part four will be a discussion involving building a team. We'll get to that. And then part five we have in the pocket to conclude our show tonight. So action-packed as always, so very happy you're able to join us. And getting into part one and getting all set here, we're going to talk about the contest giveaway that we finally had. You know, it's been some time since we had a contest giveaway, and just because we had to work a few things out, so we're very happy that we have one to announce. And it's technically two contest giveaways, and it does involve our Facebook and our Instagram page. So you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's both at The Game Sports Show. But the giveaways, okay, the first one will be 2 tickets to CWE. The Juice is Loose, December the 1st. Some good tickets there. Also, a free pizza and wings, eaten only at Sports Center Bar and Grill, and a $25 gift card from Northern Superior Brewing Company. You must like and share the Game Sports Show Facebook post, and you must also like the page at the same time as well. And for the Instagram side, which will be contest number 2, that will be a pizza from Sports Center that you can have for takeout or eat in, and a $25 gift card to Northern Superior Brewing Company. You just gotta follow the Game Sports Show on Instagram and like the post and comment as well. So either way, you got to get involved, like the page, comment, like the post, and you have a chance to win those great prizes. And those tickets that you've been holding up, very happy to give those away and work with the wrestling here in Sioux, Ontario. And we had a great segment there.
Oh my goodness, they're still talking about it on their YouTube channel now. I've seen that even. So Bad Blood going to be settled December 1st. Maybe you want to get involved in that giveaway.
Definitely get some free tickets to go there. It's going to be very entertaining for sure. So any issues, just comment below or reach out to yours truly, Alex, or anyone a part of the Game Sports Show or through Sioux Online for more contest details and giveaways. Now, getting right into the show, we're going to start with Ron MacLean and Don Cherry. Okay? And Ron MacLean and the Don Cherry issue has been happening since November the 9th, which is when it happened. Don Cherry was relieved of his duties November the 11th. And obviously since then, social media, I don't think, has had anything else more talked about. Okay? Maybe a few other sporting events and some other stuff going on in the world. But so we're not going to jump into why that happened or what we think Don meant or anything of such, okay? The thing that we're going to jump into and talk about today for the most part is Ron MacLean's comments on Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada. The first Hockey Night in Canada without Don Cherry there, without a coach's corner. And I criticized it a bit on radio yesterday on our ESPN 1400. And as you can see on the graphic there, very legendary duo that have been doing it for 34 years or so. And part of my childhood is gone from this. I have all the Rock of Sock'em videos. I've actually met Don Cherry 3 times. Both times he hugged my parents. He even hugged me and gave me a high five. Very nice guy. Whatever Ron has said in terms of how good of a guy he is, that's who he is. But his presence on TV has been heavily criticized since he basically started. Look, you can look at his rants on YouTube. They're all over the place what he's done. And this isn't new to what he's done, but in terms of today's world, that is what's new. And Don Cherry obviously was out of touch with that, but either way, Ron MacLean's comments saying how he had a heavy heart, how he was upset, how he collapsed a lot, and how sad that he was. And as you see on the graphic there, that's one part of his little presentation and speech that he had to Don. And I criticized it, Alex. I said I think it could have been more, the tribute, but you may disagree with that.
It's not that I necessarily disagree. I think when Ron's talking about how hard it is for him, that you can kind of read it in his face. Like you said before we came on the show, Don went out on went out on a limb multiple times to make sure Ron's job was secured. And you were countering with the point that maybe Ron should have done a little bit more for Cherry. 2019 social climate is exactly what it is. Social media, it's not hard to see what it is. So I can't imagine the problems and the things that Ron's trying to weed out to make sure he's making the best decisions for him, for his family, for the network. Like, it's such a touchy subject, and so many people are so fired up about this. But I want to say for sure is I don't think Ron MacLean was lying in any part when he said he really feels for Don.
See, the big thing for me is that I wasn't criticizing about the line more so, obviously, but I was more so about how it was. I would have liked to see a video present tribute or more connection towards the listener. It was all about Ron's apology, it felt like, with that speech or the statement, whatever you want to call it. And at the end of the day, Ron MacLean is in a tough situation. He is. You can imagine how he feels being best friends with Don and how much he loved them, that he said. But obviously he did take principle over friendship, and he did state that. And he says, how could he have? Honestly, a lot of people would question as to why he would. How would you ever sell out your friend, especially after this? Don Cherry went his corner numerous times. Speaking of Coach's corner, he went into his corner. But nonetheless, Ron MacLean is in a perspective that he has to look out for himself, and we get that. But I feel like the statement could have been better. They could have done something a bit more of a tribute to Don Cherry. That is where I really think. I wish they would have did more for Don, opposed to just having Ron give a speech. Maybe there's still something else to be done, but I think that's the last time it's going to be talked about on CBC and Hockey Night in Canada, so I don't think we'll see that. But I know we haven't heard the last of Don Cherry because he's doing a podcast.
Heard it from the grapevine.
From the grapevine. That's and he's going to be doing it with his son as well, and obviously that podcast is going to be booming.
Yeah, I think there's no better time for Don Cherry to capitalize on his name being in social media as much as it is. Whether you love him or you hate him, this has made you curious about what Don Cherry's next move is. So people are going to be very curious on that first episode what the first thing that's coming out is going to be.
And there it is, episode 1, Sportsnet Fire, Maurice Rocker Richard, and more will be the first episode, obviously, or is the first episode. So
that's going to be curious to see on how loud he is and how deep into it that he'll dive into that firing, because he's going to share a side that we haven't heard yet.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm going to miss you, Don. From a fan's perspective, you're obviously great when I met you. A piece of my childhood is missing. It feels so weird now watching Hockey Night in Canada, but we are in a world of change, and things do come to an end. All good things don't always continue. But at the end of the day, even though they don't continue, I kind of wish Don would have been able to leave on his own terms. That's another big thing that kind of really bothers me. But nonetheless, we're going to move on from it. We went into it as much as we could here on the Game Sports Show. We may dive into it more on our Wednesday edition, which is going to be connected to our Thursday edition, because our Thursday show is actually canceled this week. It'll be one big show on Wednesday, so it still might get brought up on Wednesday. Nonetheless, we're going to move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. Speaking of the Hockey Night in Canada show, I'm going to tell you a quick story. For the first time this year, I finally put on my Toronto Maple Leaf jersey. The last time I wore it was Game 7 last year against who else? The Boston Bruins. And the first time I wore it this year. And I wore it because I want to get that sense of belief, if you will. And nothing has hurt me more than this team so far this year. And you're a dedicated fan. I'm a dedicated fan. I'm taking off my host hat for a second, telling you what my favorite team is, obviously. But by the midpoint of the first period, I took my jersey off. And I folded it up, and I put it in the drawer that it was in. And you never give up on your team. You go through it. You go through the hurt together. But I've never been so bored and disappointed of this team right now. And I turned off the game after Ron MacLean's speech, to be honest, because I'm really disgusted from what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, Saturday night I was treated to a great Greyhound game, so I took my mind right off the Leafs. I have seen everything I need to see with this team. They refuse to change any of the problems they have in their lines, especially in reference to their defense. They're finally, a quarter of the way through the season going to make changes to their defense that has Ceci looking like garbage. That Ceci-Riley pairing is so bad. And it's so far through where I can't believe Mike Babcock has not decided to change anything. Just to get Tyson Barrie's on pace for 20 points this season after 2 back-to-back 60-plus years. get something started. Yeah, that's the face I make look when I hear his decisions every game.
Great picture choice by our producer, Jacob Moore.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Leafs, I'm throwing in the towel. I mean, if that's how they're going to play for the rest of the season, congrats, Carolina. That first-round pick, hopefully we don't end up in the bottom 10, so we get to keep that pick, but odds are that's probably what's going to happen. Here's my imaginary panic button.
It's being hit. And people are like, Dave, it's still early. Sort of. Not really. It's not that early.
The Leafs are on pace for one more win than the season they tanked for Auston Matthews. I don't know if the standings have changed at all. When I was telling Dave on our Thursday show, the teams the Leafs have beaten in regulation are only 6. They were ranked 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. That isn't good enough. It is ridiculous when you have to watch that team with no effort night in and night out.
No, and I've not been so disgusted watching this team. There's no effort, carelessness, softness is the word I want to use. Willie Nylander, sure, he's not going to go in the corner and hit, but the other guys below him that aren't expected to score goals should be ones giving those body checks. There's no compete level, no tenacity, sorry,
Yes,
is what I should say.
I got you.
It's not intense. It's not exciting to watch. Mike Babcock has been criticized, and you can look at Mike Commodore's podcasting, okay, of what he has said, okay, about Mike Babcock and all the players that won't step up. Is Mike Babcock to blame? Maybe so. But you know, I'm going to pause it at that. We're going to take a break,
Okay.
and we're going to continue to talk about it a little bit more in part 2. We're going to hear from our sponsors and commercials here on the Gain Sports Show. Back to the Gain Sports Show. Dave, Alex, I want to quickly as well state about our contest giveaway. When you like it on Instagram, the draws are going to be done on Facebook. Just so you know, Instagram is involved, but they are mainly Facebook draws, just so you are aware of that. I wanted to make sure that everything aligned with our graphic that we have shown there for you. But we're going to continue, that's still connected to part 1 with our hockey talk here. And we're going to jump in and say, with continuance of Mike Babcock, what I was saying, he's reluctant to change lines. He's stubborn. I'll say it right now. He's very stubborn. He doesn't want to change his quotes the other night to prove that. He's avoiding making the changes. Now he finally made changes on the back end. But is he completely to blame? I'm not going to give him all the blame, but he's very much up there. I don't see the eagerness in the team. I don't see the determination. He's not the same fiery Babcock that we've been used to see before. And whatever worked with Team Canada and the World Juniors and the World Championships, I'll say it again, Team Canada, okay, it's going to work, okay? You have to adapt to today's game. A lot of like coaches have, and Mike, I don't see a lot of success in that. And I'm going to give a little bit of points to Dubas too in terms of figure pointing, because there's the team that he has built right now is not a team that is a playoff team. We're in a cap crunch now because it all started with Willie Nylander last year. Is there some salvage that can be done here? Yes, I think they can. I think they can still pursue a wild card spot. Are they going to? I'm going to still believe and still think that the Leafs can get it done because it's still sort of early. But you know what? You're getting underneath the bind right now, and the Leafs have to really change a lot. I'm going to rant about it more tomorrow night because of our time constraints that we have. But I am fed up with this team. I'm disgusted. So I'm done being hurt. We want to see a winning product. Okay, that's all Leaf fans want to see. And we've been waiting. We've bought into these rebuilds. We've bought into these plans and all this. I'm not going to say the word I want to say coming from the vocal superiors in terms of Toronto. I'm done with it. Just you want to say we're going to win, give us a team that's going to do so and adapt to it. And if Babcock and Dubas are not getting along, figure it out, or one of you got to go or both of you got to go. That's all I'm going to say with that.
Cool him down after that one. I see the steam coming off.
And Shanahan, you too. I must give you a little blame too, because you're probably doing the puppet thing going on. But nonetheless, Mitch Marner is injured. Big injury for the Leafs. That's pretty evident. I was saying, where's Marner when he was here? I thought that he was kind of invincible some games. No, he's actually averaging well over a point a game. As you can see, that injury, yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not pretty.
Yeah, no, this team has basically been 4 players that I've seen. Before the Marner injury, Matthews has been on fire. He's brought it this season.
Yeah.
Justin Hall, what a pleasant little surprise on the
Yeah,
back
right.
end there, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's been pretty good this season.
yeah.
And Anderson, man, I got you in my fantasy. Your team in front of you ain't doing much, but the stops that I'm seeing him make night in and night out, he's getting no help. Kaskisuo, I'm so sorry your family had to be there Saturday night, man. But that team did not show up in front of you. You probably had more family than you had teammates in that building that night. So I want to apologize to you. I know coming from me ain't much. But hey, follow you on Twitch. He's got a good little Twitch stream going on there if any gamers are out there.
I like that. Okay, that's right. He likes to play. That's right. I know that. Yeah,
He has his own esports team, fun fact.
Oh, that's awesome. He's also a great. You can tell he's a great guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But we talked about Babcock. Barry has underperformed a lot this year. The underperformance from a lot of players is evident. And maybe when they have a full team, when Marner comes back and Kerfoot, whenever that is, maybe it'll change. But hopefully they need to make changes now or it's going to be too late.
Yeah, and I want to address any of the people that are saying Barry and Nylander are 2 guys that need to go. You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. Nylander has signed for what's about league average for what he can bring. A 70-point guy, I mean, this is a little bit rougher every year. I think he's on pace for something closer to 50, 60. But don't blame that bad contract when you're looking at Matthews and Marner's. Don't do that. Tyson Barrie?
2.275 right now for the year.
Yeah. Tyson Barrie, he's going to get going. He needs to get used in a completely different way, and I don't know what that is yet, but Mike Babcock, you need to do something to get him going. And why not, for once, play Riley and your other best defenseman? He would never play Riley Gardner together, so why not put your 2 best defensemen on your top pairing just for a change, for 5 minutes, for 1 shift, for a game?
For a power play.
Please. I beg you, Mike.
We talked a lot about the Maple Leafs, and that's what we do talk about all the NHL teams and hockey teams, obviously, but the Leafs are really invading the news. Little rumor that was said that Tyson Barrie, there's been some talks with Calgary involving Sam Bennett and Rasmus Anderson in a trade. If that is true, I hope it actually isn't, despite that I am a fan of Sam Bennett. That guy is gritty. But nonetheless, Tyson Barrie will get going. I have faith in you, Tyson. Still some time left, but I'm very fed up. So we're going to transition from the NHL, and this might bring us into part 3. It's going to very much intertwine because of how much part 1 had for content. Part 2 with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
Finally, a team that I actually have some nice things to say. Let's go. Let's do this.
They won 3 last week, 3 straight, very big. Sudbury, Hamilton, and Oshawa. Big wins, and maybe don't count out this team yet this year.
Well, I mean, I was looking at the stats before Saturday night's game, and they had 92 goals for going into that game. That is second best in the OHL.
What's the goals against?
91 at the time. Now, that was before Saturday night's game, so that changed a little bit. They would have had 3 more goals for and 1 more goals against. But this Birkin trade, I'm not sure what it is. I know when you trade your starting goalie, you're sending a message to your team that clearly says, hey, boys, not good enough. This is not where we want to be. Bailey Birkin is a guy who was dropped by the Spokane Chiefs. He was an overager. They're like, we would rather use our overager with somebody else. This is a guy that's coming and trying to prove something. And so far, he has been such a calming presence for that back end, the way he's been able to see the ice and control some of that play. I think that's just doing wonders for the Greyhounds defense, who's a lot of them are young still.
And you know what? We had some comments from fans of the Gate Sports Show wondering why the trade was done. And we commented on the show stating how the change of scenery was needed for both goalies. More so for Bailey and Christian Prop was not as advertised. And right now you don't know if Nick Malik is going to come over. Okay? So at the end of the day, you're in a position that you have to bring in a goalie who's stable. And you can have a good duo with Taylor and with Bailey in it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be looking at bringing in the import goalie right now. I've liked what Taylor has done this season, and he played some pretty good games in front of a team that was faltering. And I mean, this could be the resurgence of the Greyhounds. I'd like to see Pitlick get going a little bit more. I'd like to see McKay get going a little more. Ryan O'Rourke, my goodness. Great job representing the Sioux in the Subway Super Series, or not the Subway Super Series anymore. It's not sponsored by Subway anymore, but the Super Series against the Russian team. And yeah, that kid's special. That kid is special. And just watching him night in, night out, he gets better every single shift.
He does. And you know what? The Hounds, maybe there's a little bit of faith that we can have with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. They're on the road for 3 games this week. Thursday, as my voice cracked there. Thursday in Windsor, Friday in Flint, and Sunday against Rheinroth and the Sarnia Sting.
Ooh.
No, Sarnia has been a very hot team in the OHL, and you can check that out with Jerry Linscomb on Rock 101, our good friend Jerry Linscomb there.
Of
you
course.
know what? And they do a great job with our cross promotion, so it'll be great. If you can't make the game, a little bit difficult to travel, you can tune in there, as well as there's TV. There's different ways to listen, and the Game Sports Show will have you covered with terms of updates and pictures and all the fun stuff. The Hounds go in to this week/weekend 9-12-1. Which is better than 6-12-1.
Absolutely. The Greyhounds, to beat the Generals 3-1, I think that's a huge statement game for them. The Generals are 3rd in the East at the time that we're talking right now, and the way that they played hard. They played like they wanted to be there, and it was a nice change of pace from the other team I've been watching this season.
And you know what? There could be hope. This team did start the year 4-0, so we will see. I think this topic may bring us into break or potentially the next one after, and then we can continue it in part 3. But Barrett Hayton staying in the National Hockey League, that it seems, but any chance to send back, despite losing the year in the contract, I've received questions. There's no way.
No chance.
There's no chance. He has played 4 games. 4 points, in the OHL. He's too good to be an OHL player, as Alex will say, but just developing as an NHL player, and he will get there. And I just hope Arizona gets to use him more, because I think that's very useful to use with the rookie. If not, you should have sent him back. I do think he will go to the World Juniors, though. I do think Arizona will send him just so he can keep playing and go represent the country. I think Arizona is a good organization like that, and I think they will send him to the World Juniors.
They're keeping him as an extra skater right now. I'm not sure if Brad Richardson has come back from his injury, but they were saying once he came back, Hayton might not really have a spot in that team, but they seemingly want to carry him. So I think if you have Hayton as that expendable forward, the experience that he'll get at the World Juniors, potentially a captain as a returning player, somebody that put up great points, maybe not with Morgan Frost this year, unfortunately, but I think he could be a huge leader on that team, and the experience he could get there might be a little bit more than he'd get from sitting in a press box playing a night here and night there kind of situation.
Definitely, and obviously Hounds fans would love to have him back, because you know what would have happened? We would have cashed in on some nice value, or maybe we would have cashed in on some more wins and made it a little interesting run. I think it would have been more of the trade route. I know Peterborough was all in, and so was Oshawa on him, we've been told. So it would have been very interesting. So now we will get into this last topic before we go to break. Morgan Frost gets called up to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, and someone I've reached out to and talked on Twitter. Andy Frost, his father, voice legend of the Maple Leafs, that echoed throughout the Air Canada Center before it was called Scotiabank Arena. AHL stats, 16 games, 12 points. Very impressive.
Leads the team with those numbers,
and
by the way.
he leads the team, obviously, there. And he gets called up on the 18th of November. And his father, Andy Frost, said, quote unquote, I had, with this chat, he said how crazy it was for the call up and how Morgan deserves it and how proud of a father that he was for him. You know, that's coming right from Andy Frost himself. And Morgan is deserving of this because the year that he's had, you know, there's been a lot of criticism towards the kid. If he's strong enough, is he too much flash or flair and doesn't have that style that can adapt to the NHL game? I always said, you're crazy for thinking that, because Morgan Frost is an NHL type ready player. He's dropped first round. He's going to be a top 6 forward in the National Hockey League. I think Philly's making a good call giving him that experience.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that he's going to stay up for the rest of the season.
No.
I feel like he's one of their number 1 call-up guys, him, maybe another older guy, that where if an injury comes up, they'll be the first one to go. And I think that's probably the best way to let Frost adapt to that speed, adapt to that size, the skill, and overall the physicality of it at the NHL level. So let him come in for a couple games, send him back down. Maybe a couple weeks later, you need another guy, bring him back up. But I wouldn't keep Frost up from here till the end of the season.
Nope. And we'll definitely have Andy on for sure, because we want to get him on. He's always a great time. But best of luck to Morgan in the National Hockey League. We're going to be taking a break. When we come back, we got more hockey talk and also some local talk in part 3 of the Game Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. Dave McKay, Alex Parr. Quickly correct myself one more time. Barrett Hayden had 9 games.
9 games
Nine
played.
games,
That's
9
why
games.
he's used the first year of his ELC.
Exactly. But Barrett Hayden, nonetheless, best of luck either way. But we're going to transition now into some local sports in terms of the Thunderbirds / NLJHL. Also with the Algoma University Thunderbirds and the Sioux College Cougars. I know Scott Nason did a fantastic job covering a lot on ESPN 1400. Yesterday, you could check out that on our Podbean page and our website as you could listen here through our on TV show. But if you want to listen to that full discussion, but we're going to get some reminder points here for the Algoma University. We're going to start off with the basketball, the women's team. They played against a nationally ranked team, both the men's and women, against Carleton. Okay, Carleton, top team in the country
Big
for
boys
both
for
the
Carleton,
women
for sure.
and the men. They know how to play basketball down there.
Yeah, that's to
Last
say
I
the
checked.
least.
Yeah. Now, good thing though, the women split this weekend. The women's get a win, and they also get a loss. They lost on Friday to Carleton. It was 78-57, and then they won against on Sunday afternoon, and this was all at the George Leach. They won 66-65 against Ottawa. Now, you got players like Carly Francellanza. I can maybe say an Italian name, but I can't say some other names. Led the way with 29 points. Diane Martin had 12 points, and Ikea Nakashima had chipped in with 10 points.
That's pretty
for
good.
Algoma.
I'll give you that one.
And now criticized for my name pronunciation, so I think I did pretty good there.
Well,
but
hey, you can fill in for Don now.
Oh,
With
yikes.
mispronunciation of all those names.
Oh, goodness. Ottawa, 66-65. You play against the Ottawa Gee-Gees, and Carleton. Those are very good teams in the women's play. And Carleton was obviously a closer loss than many people predicted, but to get the win against Ottawa is huge. And
Yeah.
split the weekend. Very good for the women's. The men's, they dropped against Carleton. It was 98-74. And then Ottawa turned a 3-point deficit in one quarter to a 7-point lead by halftime, en route to an 88-67 win over Algoma. Nicholas Kalin led Algoma with 14 points. And on Friday, both teams are in action this upcoming weekend at home starting Friday against Windsor. So the Thunderbirds, both men and women, are going to try to continue that momentum. It was played last week, and the men's are going to try to get on track of getting a win. I know both coaches, especially with the ATN, would like to get the men's team going there. Now, the Sioux College Cougars. We're going to jump into the Sioux College Cougars hockey team is where we're going to direct our attention here today. On Friday, the Cougars lost 9-4 against Grand Valley. A rare loss.
9 goals against, too, which may alarm some of you.
Yes.
But as you can see,
sometimes you have bad games. Because in the second game, they did win by a score of 5-2, and they improved the record to 13-3-2. And on Saturday, Ryan Bennerman notched a goal and 2 assists. Max Cole and Tassoni both scored once to set up another. Parker Morgan and Austin Rowe had the other goals for the Sioux College Cougars. Now, Sioux College is now they're still ranked number 1, okay, which is an accomplishment, and they're getting some competition here. And I keep referring back to Twine University, but you know what? They're still getting some heavy competition here in Division 2, and they're seeing them move up 13-3-2. Still a very good record for Sioux College.
yeah, I think if you're a Sioux College Cougars hockey fan, you want to see them lose maybe every now and then. They cakewalk Division 3. That doesn't make you a better hockey player. Playing teams that are actual competition is going to make you better. And they're still dominating this division. So don't get me wrong by any means. But to see them lose, I think is going to kind of like, hey, don't worry, you can't get off your game in this division. This isn't Division 3 anymore.
No, and that's where Sioux College definitely does very well. They play out of the Rankin, so make sure you check out Sioux College Athletics and Fitness on their social medias and go to that Rankin. It's a great atmosphere there to watch and play some hockey.
It really
It's
is.
a great ice time there. Now, I'm going to transition to the NLJHL with these Sioux Thunderbirds. 2-1 this past weekend. They're now 14-10-1-2 overall, and at this current point, they snapped their 6-game winning streak. It was snapped due to their loss, but the Thunderbirds will play this upcoming weekend after this past weekend beating Kirkland Lake and also defeating the Rapids and then losing to Rayside Balfour Canadians 5-2. Very tough matchup in Rayside there, as you can see. But as you say on that graphic there, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Not by any means. I mean, losing to the...
66%?
That's not bad.
0.66%? I had to make sure. I had to look at you. I was kind of worried about my math for a second.
You had it there. The only thing that's kind of unfortunate about that loss against Rayside is those are kind of 4-point games. That's the team they're chasing. Rayside's in second, and the Thunderbirds.
Measuring stick.
We love our terminology here on the Game Sports Show, but exactly that. It's a measuring stick, and I think the Thunderbirds are kind of starting to settle into more of what they should expect for this season. Oh, by the way, hats off to Kovacs. Wow.
Oh, yep.
Wow, you have been lighting it up this year, and you get a thumbs up from both of us for this show. Absolutely.
Thumbs up.
Absolutely.
It really ties into the Don Cherry from the start of the show.
Wow, bringing it around the whole theme. But like I say, that it's kind of a 4-point game. It's about the halfway point of the season. We're getting closer to that mark now. So if the Thunderbirds do want to get that second spot, next time they play, they may not have a game to lose.
No, it'll definitely be interesting as the season goes on. Hey, it's still anybody's game at any time, especially in junior hockey. Thunderbirds, as I was mentioning a little bit before I went into this past weekend, they will play let's say the powerhouse Powassan Voodoos, and they play the Lumberjacks, which is Hearst this weekend as well. Starting on Friday night 7 against Powassan, be a rematch of last year's final. Against Hearst on Saturday also at 7 as well. Powassan coming into the weekend winners of 20 straight games.
Yeah, they are. There's no way that anybody can dispute that is the best team in Northern Ontario junior hockey.
Yep. Now they're ranked in the top 10 in the CJHL, so obviously they're a very good hockey team. Sioux Eagles 3-0 this past weekend, very excellent showing, improving to 14-10-1-2. And the Eagles, there's another team that's starting to come around, those pesky Eagles, if you will. And with the Beavers also this weekend, they were 2-1 this past weekend on the road trip. They're going to the Eagles first. The Eagles will play at home this weekend, a pair against some tough Eastern opponents. They'll be taking on defending NJHL champion Hearst on Friday at 7:30, and the 22-1 Powassan Voodoos on Saturday night at 7. And as I mentioned, 20-game winners in a row are Powassan, so I got to make sure I keep throwing that out there. That's
got to be close to the league record, if not already.
Got to get Rob Mazuka to get that comment to verify that or look at the statistics. Blind River 2-1 this past weekend on the road trip, as I mentioned. They played 3 games this week. They play Wednesday against Elliott Lake, and they're Saturday they're home to Timmins, and Sunday a big home matchup against Powassan. Two top dogs going at it Sunday afternoon, the melee game, if you will.
Potentially your NOJHL final.
Yeah, that's the favorite, as everyone's saying. It kind of makes sense if you have 2 top teams. The Blind River Beavers are 17-6-1-2 going into this week for being number 1 in their division. So obviously a lot of success going on there in Blind River. Now, I got to mention that for one team that we didn't really jump into yet, the LSSU Lakers.
Yes.
I've been getting a lot of questions, which is very interesting about LSSU, that what their difficulty is of recruiting. And this past weekend, they end up splitting the weekend. They win 4-2 on that would be on Friday, the 15th. I gotta get my days correct. And that 4-2 against Huskies. Then on the 16th, they played against Huskies as well, and they lost 2-1 in a very close game. You know, they played a lot of tough teams at the beginning of the season. You know, you got Denver, you got Michigan. You play against Notre Dame, played against a lot of teams in that realm. Then you play against some teams that you should maybe be successful against, and they're splitting or they're losing. People are wondering, okay, is this team really for real? Are they going to be able to be as good as last year? Obviously, they're not. Maybe they're not going to be as good as last year, but they do have a capable team to be very successful. But as I was saying, the people, like in terms of scouting world and the media, asked me, do you think it's truly tough to recruit for this team? And I think it is.
Yeah, I do too, for sure.
And people wonder why. Why is it tough? You're a border town, you get to have entry in Canada, the OHL's right there, some scouting opportunities, very good points. But let's compare it to the world of basketball. You know, you have Duke coming up to you, and maybe you're Boise State. Sorry, I don't mean to throw any teams out there, but you have different schools that are different rankings out there. You know the credibility that another school has over another. So is that difficult for Lake State? Potentially, but Lake State were national champions before.
Yes.
They've developed a lot of good hockey players. They have a very good hockey program, and LSSU Lakers should really be recognized and respected as a program. I think more players have to start recognizing to come here and wanting to come here because they have a program to get it done. They are in the right direction despite how the season's going thus far. Hopefully they can turn around going further. But Alex, I'll get your opinion before we go to break on your perspective of the recruitment here in NCAA for Lake State.
Yeah, I mean, it's as north as you can get. So most players, if they're not from Sioux, Michigan, are going to have to come north for that. And how far that is, I'm not sure. I'm not that player. But we've said this before, and what may be hard to recruit players or keep their morale high is the location. You're moving so far away.
Location.
It's the same for the OHL, which I think a change of scenery for Christian Prop is going to be the best thing for him, where it may be kind of hard where you have to move further up north, further away from your family, where that can get into your head and affect your play out on the ice.
It does. Now, Lake Superior State, you can see all their home games, the Taft Abel Arena. Check out their website for their schedule, as well as follow along with the Game Sports Show, as we'll have all your coverage there as well. Dave McKeag, Alex Parr, Mustache, no mustache. Glasses, no glasses. Complete opposites today, obviously. We're going to take a break here inside On TV Studios. When we come back, we got part 4, and that's what we're going to talk about, building a team. What do we mean? You have to wait to find out. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. Dave McCaig, Alex Parr inside On TV Studios. And make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Game Sports Show. And also follow On TV and Sue Online. And as I said right at the top of the show, our contest giveaway. We're going to have it on there through our Facebook, and it'll also be on our Instagram page where we all connected. So make sure you get a part of our great draw to have a chance to win some tickets as well. There's some wrestling in town here and some food and beer. What? Oh, get me there now.
Let's go.
Get me there now. I want to go there now. Beer and food. Anyways, we got to show. My stomach growled a little bit there. And so, Mustache is hungry. Got to feed it. Moving on.
Moving on, yes, definitely.
Building a successful team, okay? This is a topic that I brought to the table today, okay? And out of the blue, I know Alex probably read it in our rundown sheets today and said, whoa, random topic.
It's kind of spot on, actually. It's pretty good.
It's kind of, but now on ESPN 1400 yesterday, I brought this up on the table to Scott Nason, and it was a topic that I thought about just by seeing the New England Patriots on TV at the time. And I'm getting very, as you can see, evidence of Toronto Maple Leaf fans here, taking our host hat off for a second, the frustration that we have with our teams, and building a team. That's kind of what sparked this idea.
Basically, what we're saying is we can build a team better than the Leafs, correct?
Yeah. Have you seen my NHL 20? No, you haven't, because I haven't kicked your butt yet in it. But nonetheless, you should see it. You know, I built an expansion franchise, NHL 20. I won a cup year 2 and 3 by simulation. Now I sound like a complete nerd. But nonetheless, okay, building a successful team. Dynasty teams, what brought success for New England? What brought success for Chicago? What brought success to the New York Yankees of yesterday, if you will, I guess, because this year, obviously, in the last decade, really hasn't been the Yankees. But what has been successful? Has it been through the draft? Has it been trades, free agency, staff management? What model has worked for certain teams? And Alex, I'm going to go to you first.
I think if you spin the wheel and of all the 31 NHL teams, besides, I guess, your Vegas team, for example, but if you look at a team's core best players, they are all drafted. Name me an NHL team. Buffalo, Jack Eichel, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Barkov in Florida. The Leafs, Riley, not Tavares, excuse me, he's a free agent signing, but Matthews and Marner. The core of teams that can win usually have those pieces drafted because it is very hard to trade for a superstar. It is very hard to sign a superstar in free agency. If you want to look at Chicago from the NHL, they drafted those players, grew them, made that championship team, and while they may not be in top contention anymore, they paid those guys that were successful for the team and brought the cup there because you win, you deserve it.
See, you know what? When I look at it from a perspective, I'm going to say Toronto, you draft Matthews, great. Marner, great. Okay, what it all comes down to is that usually teams that draft these superstars, unless you're a lucky team that trades for a lottery pick and you draft them, a lot of these young stars don't win a Stanley Cup in their first couple of years. It's not like Chicago when they won their first cup against Philadelphia in over 50 years. Okay, you go through some 3 years where you're rebuilding. You get the boys get to mold together, if you will, and learn how to win together. And also, after that, it gets rid of your 3 years right there. And then nowadays in the National Hockey League, you're signing these star players for an astronomical amount of money. It hasn't been successful for Toronto yet. It hasn't. You're paying $40 million for basically 4 players.
Yeah.
And that is not how you build a team. So I'm going to say right now, you don't build a team just because of the way you draft. It's proper staff management. Okay, so through the draft, check mark, yes, obviously, because as you tested to, Alex, you don't trade for superstars often, and Pittsburgh's an example of that as well. You have Crosby, Malkin, two centers.
Letang, Fleury that won them cups.
They had certain core guys, and what did Crosby do? 8.7 million, please. That's all I want. Build me a cup contender. He has Chris Kunitz, who revived his career after going there. He made wingers better around him. So did Malkin.
Mm-hmm.
When Crosby was out, who steps up? Malkin, and vice versa. When Matthews or Tavares is out, I don't see where the other's stepping up. Okay, that is also the way we're building through the draft, getting the right guys that are going to go to battle for each other. That's not what you're seeing from the Toronto end, but that's not what we're talking about here in terms of building a team. It's overall success on drafting and staff management. My 2 points. And staff management comes in when re-signing players.
Definitely. I think when Dubas said we can and we will, in reference to signing and keeping those four big players, those four big pieces, he kept his promise. But now the players' agents know, he doesn't sign my player, he's going to look like an idiot now because he promised his fan base. So, no, I'm not going to take that deal. You need this more than we do. I know you're going to give me the money. He backed himself into a corner by saying that. And I think paying your players before they win is not a model that's going to work, especially in a place so hungry for success like Toronto, because, oh my goodness, this guy gets paid $11 million. Why aren't you scoring 2 goals every game? Why aren't you scoring 2 goals every game? You sign a contract like 7, 8, 9 million. Oh, well, at least we're not right up against the cap. At least we, there's still times to grow. Not the route that Dubas and the rest of the Leafs took, though.
You know what? The way the team was built the best, and people look at Chicago and LA and be like, well, look, they entered a cap hell, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you know what? So what? They did. But did they win 3 cups, 2 cups? Yeah. Boston, very good. Mm-hmm. I actually envy the way Boston's built. Yeah, have they won multiple cups or as many as Chicago has? No, but they've won a couple cups.
Their scouts in Boston, too?
Are fantastic. You know who actually helped build that team? Was Peter Chiarelli. Okay, people forget that. Yeah. Okay, but now they have a good core team they buy in. They play. They don't get pushed around exactly as much so as I want to say. They don't. They play with physicality. Their core guys play together. And what's their top line? Their 3 best players, and Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron. I know it's too late to really say, but we don't have their stats on the screen. But I'll say right now that those 3 guys. Okay, and you build a core group of guys, you have the right guys in place. Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Fleury at the time. Now it's Murray. Boston has Bergeron, Marchand, Chara, and Tuukka Rask. McAvoy, Krug, and Pastrnak came into it at the right time. Mm-hmm. It's building it, but that staff management's so key, where you build and draft the right players, which is connected to staff management because you got to draft the right players. And your staff have to sign and set the precedents for the right players to make the set amount that you're serious to win, which also stems from the coaching staff to make sure they get the right ability out of the players and they want to play for them. And there's a lot of players that don't want to play for certain coaches in the National Hockey League. There's a couple teams that I can name. And there's also a couple teams right now that maybe have built through free agency or trade/signings. Vegas, because they had an expansion draft. They had no other choice.
Right.
So nonetheless, you got to build through the draft and staff management. Those are the key points. And there's been some issues with some certain teams. Quickly, we'll go to you before break.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just have to say, you draft your core pieces and you have to build them. Then you've got to make those trades for those rental guys before your playoff runs. You also need to sign some free agents that are going to be your character guys, somebody that can keep the room together, maybe somebody that'll protect those guys you drafted. Lots of different facets of things you have to keep in mind when you're building your championship team.
Definitely. Now, right now, that's all we're going to have for part 4. It's going to be for hockey talk as well. We have part 5 coming up next here on the Game Sports Show, where it's going to be In the Pocket. Dave, Alex, been with you. And we're getting to the final part of tonight's show already. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Lots to talk about today, too. As many of you know, we did have a cancellation of our show last week. Give a quick condolences to our producer, Jake. Moore again there as well. I wanted to save to bring that part in until now. So we do apologize that we did not have a show last week, but obviously given the circumstances, it was definitely much needed, and obviously what we had to do here on the game. So we're happy that we're back up and going this week. We had a lot to talk about. We did talk about lots on the radio and podcast version, so you can check out those editions as we try to make up as much as we could last week. Going into part 5, In the Pocket. Okay, and in terms of our In the Pocket, you hear it a lot in our Wednesday edition from Sports Center Bar and Grill. And on Thursday, November the 28th, Cora will be playing at 3:30 p.m. at McMaster University in Hamilton, as they'll be playing against Peterborough. Okay, the Peterborough Holy Cross Hurricanes stopped the Centennial Chargers from Belleville, Ontario. 61-14 was the win in that game.
Spanking. Oh my goodness.
That's rough. You know what? That's a rough goal. That's a rough goal even for some fans to watch, but nonetheless, when you can't stop playing, it's almost even worse just to stop playing and let off. But it'll be a very interesting game as well for the Colts. And we're going to talk about it a lot more on our show tomorrow, but just give them a little love. You can follow Cora, who are still playing football, obviously, at Cora Football on Instagram. Tom Annett, great friend of the show. And obviously Matt Primo, Jamie Antonello, and Dustin Grondin, our analysts, who you've mostly seen on the TV side as you've seen Dustin, but they're a part of the show. So we have a lot of ties with Cora here, and someone went to high school there.
Who?
I don't know, not me. I went to the Dunn and Basils, and both my schools are closed. And nonetheless, make sure you give them a follow, and good luck to Cora. Keep on going forward as they proceed towards OFSA as well. Now, in the NFL, game of the week this week, because we want to get into, we do a lot of discussion with the National Football League on Wednesdays as well. That's why we save this for the last part of the show, just to kind of transition us nicely into tomorrow's show. So we're going to get into what we're going to talk about, game of the week, and we got 2 points that we're going to jump into as well. Upcoming game of the week, Alex, your pick.
Easy. Packers-Niners. They had to change the game. They moved it over to Sunday because that is a
flex
money
action
game. That game is going to be hopefully as great as it is advertised. Those are the top teams this season. I'd love to see my Packers get back on track after a little bit of a bad game against the Chargers, I won't lie. But this is prime time game. The league was absolutely correct in flexing it over to Sunday night, because I think a lot more people than just myself are going to want to watch that.
It's going to be a very good game. A lot of Cheeseheads followers here, if you will, on the Game Sports Show, as we have a lot of ties with Green Bay and the Detroit Lions, and we talk about obviously those teams in extension, as well as the Steelers and the Colts. We talk about lots as well. And Dustin loves the Saints. Everyone loves the Saints. I'm a big Drew Brees fan too, so I'm really kind of pulling for them a little bit this year, but not more than the boys in the back in yellow. But my game of the week, Cowboys and the Patriots is my game of the week. Obviously, the New England Patriots don't need any introduction. They don't need any discussion, really, because of how good of a football team that they are. The Cowboys are first in their division, quietly.
Very quietly.
Which is very strange of the Dallas Cowboys to be quiet. But I think it's a great challenge for the Cowboys, especially with Dak and with Zeke and the guys that they have there. I think they play really motivated against these top teams, do the Cowboys. And I'm just very excited to see this football game, because New England hasn't been tested a lot this year. They have a few games, and when they did get tested, who they lose to? The Baltimore Ravens. So I think if they get tested by another good team, the Dallas Cowboys, there's potential maybe New England could be upset.
So you could say this game for the Cowboys is a bit of a measuring stick.
Yeah, we're going to be using that term a lot here on the Game Sports Show, I feel like. Now, the next part that we're going to jump into will be our last NFL point that we're going to jump into. Colin Kaepernick works out.
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about working out at a local gym nearby. We're talking about that he's working out as he's trying to get a shot back in the league. And his little sign-off video that he did, nope, didn't care for it, to be totally honest. But hey, we're media, it gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
But Colin Kaepernick looking like he has an elite arm still. And he still has great hair, like that screen shows.
The bombs he was throwing in those videos. Oh my goodness. And people are commenting saying, well, maybe he can't do that against the defense. And I brought that up to one of my friends who's a big football fan. He was saying, no, if you can throw that long of a bomb, you can throw that long of a bomb as long as your O-line is there to protect you for a couple seconds to let you be able to throw that far to somebody running. Yeah, the same with the sign-off. I think if you're trying to get onto a team, don't keep stirring the controversy pot. Nobody wants to add somebody that's going to bring a bunch of attention and a bunch of potentially negative attention to the team. I think he should just put his head down now and play some football. Not saying he shouldn't stand up for what he believes in, but maybe take your stances away from your work at times?
See, I think it's something that, yes, will he get signed this year? I don't think he does.
Really?
I don't think he gets signed this year. I made the bold prediction that it's going to be an off-season acquisition.
Okay.
And I know he wants to play, but the season's already deep into it. Unless Miami wants to just spend money for absolutely no reason and bring him in. I just don't think it really makes sense unless an injury occurs. And the Detroit Lions do have an injured quarterback right now with Matt Stafford, who knows how his health is going to be. And nonetheless, I think Colin, you're going to have to wait the rest of this year, and he'll be back next year. And a lot of front runners for Colin Kaepernick. My total prediction of where I think he's going to go is Jacksonville is very interesting. Gardner Minshew's there. They might get some trade value for him. I don't know if Nick Foles is 100%. And potentially maybe a backup for the Lions or used in Miami. Those are the only three teams. And Colin Kaepernick, I am pulling for him. I'd love to see him back.
Yes.
He still has an arm.
Definitely.
Now the next part we'll get into Browns and Steelers quickly before we get to our thumbs up. There is one more point I had to make sure I got to, which I think for the reminder for that. Browns and Steelers, that was heated.
Yeah, to say the least.
To say the least. And Myles Garrett using helmet to hit Zach Rudolph in the head.
Yeah.
Zach Mason in the head. And also just out of control, Pouncey kicking. That was not a typical sport fight that you would see. That was an actual street brawl, it felt like, on the field.
That was disgusting. To suspend him for the remainder of the season, including the playoffs, is minimal what he needed. You attacked a man. You literally assaulted a guy on the field. And I know you're going to say, well, maybe hockey, you can fight people in that. No, you're not taking your helmet and using it as a foreign object, as a weapon. This isn't WWE. Myles Garrett, that is disgusting, and I hope you don't play another game in the NFL again.
Yeah, the ban this year, it might be looked into more going into the offseason. So Myles Garrett and Pittsburgh Steelers, tough loss for Pittsburgh. They need to bounce back. That's a very dangerous play that you do not want to see.
And your own quarterback's going against you and saying, yeah, you can't do that. That was disgusting. I can't believe it. Baker Mayfield, thank you for stepping up and actually speaking your morals. And
number 1 overall pick, Myles Garrett. Yikes, Cleveland! Thumbs up, though, to wrap up our show. We're getting the last part of the show. Thumbs up. Arizona Coyotes, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That was my thumbs up for the week. Lenny Layton for the Hockey Fights Cancer take on the faceoff. When he went to drop the puck, and Mark Giordano missed it and let her win it. That was just fantastic to see.
Oh, my goodness. I think hockey needs to be a little bit more fun at times, and I've never seen that before, where they actually let the player go out there and take the ceremonial draw.
First time.
And the way Giordano sold it like he was really going for it, I was just like, that's too cool. Giordano, Arizona Coyotes, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, man, thumbs up to all of you.
Nothing but thumbs up. And the brawl, though, at that game, we'll save that for our tomorrow discussion. That's all I got to say. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. Brawls in hockey, do we want them? We'll talk about that tomorrow on the Game Sports Show. On behalf of Alex Parr and yours truly, David McKeag, and on behalf of everyone here in Soo Line on TV Studios and part of the Game Sports Show, I'm going to give you a quick sign-off here and remind you to stay classy and booyah.